MP Julie Dzerowicz, welcome back to Correio da Manhã, Canadá. It is always a pleasure to have you on our channel.
Obrigada, Teresa. Prazer estar aqui com vocês.
Ever since the start of the new electoral campaign, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with the Liberal Party has made a few plans for his potential re-election, and I would like to go over a few of them. So let's start with the long-term care sector. So our seniors, they need a lot of help at this stage of the pandemic in the country. So Liberals are pledging to invest $9 billion over 5 years. So this plan includes establishing a guaranteed minimum wage for federal, for personal support workers and training new staff. $9 billion sure is a lot of money. So how is this money going to be invested in the sector?
Well, Teresa, you're right. Seniors, I'm meeting them at the doors as we're going through this election right now. And the first thing they're saying to me is, they're saying, Julie, we need more money. Everything is so expensive. So as part of our overall plan to support our seniors, we've made an announcement, and this just came out over the last week or so, where seniors between the ages of 65 and 75 will get an additional $500 per person through the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS. And if you're a couple in a house, you'll get $750, and that's for the couple. And that's on top of already us having announced earlier this year in our budget that the old age security is going up by 10% for those 75 and older. Okay, so everybody's going to get an increase. It's really important for them to receive that. And I think a lot of people were very unhappy initially when we didn't mention the 65 to 75, because we know it's expensive. We know they have additional costs. And so I want them to know that they'll be supported. You very rightly talked about the long-term care facilities. So many of them are so worried that if they get to a point that they have to go into a home, they don't want to go into those homes because they heard all of the awful stories from COVID. So what's happened is the federal government is putting $4 billion to put national standards for all long-term care homes and to enforce it. Because it's one thing to set the rules of how people need to be treated in these long-term care homes, but it's another to make sure there's enough money that you have inspections and officers going in frequently to make sure that all the rules are adhered to. So that is very big. The other thing is, what we found is the personal support workers were not paid enough. And so what happens is they were taking 2 and 3 jobs, which is why they were getting COVID. And then they were passing the COVID to the seniors in the long-term care homes. So the Prime Minister said, we have to come up with a plan to better support and better pay our personal support workers. We have an aging population, whether people want to be cared for at home and hire a personal support worker or in these long-term care facilities. Personal support workers are taking care of the people who have contributed their whole lives to our country, who've raised their families, who've made their communities better, and our seniors should be treated with dignity and respect in their old age.
A few minutes ago, before our interview, we were discussing about some concerns in the seniors in our community, the Portuguese Canadian community. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, their main concerns have been about just the cost of living increase and how expensive everything is. And so I think initially the community was a little worried. For those that were between the ages of 65 and 75, they said, wait, why are you forgetting me? Why are you only increasing and providing additional funding to those 75 and older? I need more money now, because we see the price of food going up. We see the price of home cost, in terms of electricity and water and garbage costs. So all of those are going up. And we have addressed that issue. The Prime Minister has made an announcement for those 65 to 75. We will increase the Guaranteed Income Supplement by $500 per person if we get reelected, and to $750 per couple, again, if we are reelected in this current election.
Another thing more in the health sector in general, the Liberal Party is promising $6 billion to reduce wait times and another $3 billion to hire doctors and nurses in healthcare sector. So how is the money going to be spent, and how can Canadians benefit from this from now on, if any re-election is happening?
Yes, so thank you. That's a really important question. we're very proud of our healthcare system here in Canada. But what's happening is we have a more aging population. It's a population that needs more care. And what happens is that means we need more doctors and more nurses. And so that's why the federal government has decided that we have to invest more money in that, as well as if you live not in cities like Toronto, which is where I'm at right now, it is harder to find a doctor. Like it's hard to find just a general practitioner who will just take care of your everyday needs. So we want to put a focus on that. The other thing I would add is we've put almost $1 billion as well for mental health. Okay. It is something that members of the community have come to talk to me about. Within the community, there's very few resources, particularly in Portuguese, for mental health resources. I know that is something I've personally spoken to our Minister of Health, Patty Hyju, about. I told her that as we're giving more mental health dollars to the provinces and cities, we have to make sure that some of it's available in different languages. And I said in my community, it's particularly important that we offer it in Portuguese. Not only Portuguese, there's, many people can function very well in English, but that we have a choice to be able to do that. But there's many unmet needs on mental health. Our children are more anxious than ever before, particularly coming out of COVID. And we also know that we haven't spent enough money to support our adults with their mental health needs. So that is equally important. So yes, you're right. It's hiring more doctors. It's reducing the wait times within hospitals and operations, but it's also providing additional supports for mental health.
So Justin Trudeau is announcing a party plan to continue working with the provinces to implement a $10 a day childcare plan. Is that going to be for all Canadians, regardless of their annual income?
So thank you for raising that. I will tell you that everybody in my community, whether you're Portuguese or not, really sees how expensive it is for childcare. In Toronto, it costs about $1,200 a month for each child. It's too expensive. So the federal government in April of this year, we announced a national childcare plan, but the provinces have to sign up. So we already have signed agreements with 8 provinces and territories, and Ontario still has to sign up, but we know that they're going to do it once we get this, if we are reelected, and this fall. And they've already indicated that to us. So what that means is if Ontario comes on board this year, if you have a child that has childcare needs, your childcare costs will go down by 50% by the end of next year, 2022. And within 4 to 5 years, it'll go down to $10 a day. The reason we need the 4 to 5 years, Teresa, is because we have to now put in programs at colleges and universities to hire up childcare workers. Then we have to create those spaces, okay? So that takes time to create all the spaces and do all the training and all the hiring that is needed. But we want people to know that their costs will go by 50% down by the end of next year, which is a huge help for all parents. It doesn't matter what age, it doesn't matter what nationality, and within 4 to 5 years, it'll go down to the average of $10 a day, and that'll help everyone. But I say this to everyone very clearly. The Liberal government is promising this national childcare plan. We will get it done if we are reelected. If a Conservative government is elected, they had already on record saying they will cancel the childcare plan. It is over. And so I want to make sure that all your readers and everybody who is listening or hearing in on this interview knows that that will be the case.
So they also said they are introducing a 10-day paid sick leave for federally regulated workers. And I don't know if you've heard this, but recently the Ontario government also announced that they will be extending its paid sick leave program in light of the Delta variant. And experts actually advise it should be 10 days. Is this a goal for all workers in Canada?
I think so. The reason for that is, look, for anyone who knows me in the community, I work really hard. I even work when I'm sick. I work all the time. I hate not working. I hate not contributing. But I'll tell you, when you have something like COVID, it is serious and you have to stay home because it's not just you that's being impacted. It is your colleagues. it is your family, it is your colleagues' families, and it is your workplace. So we have to institute this because we want people to feel like they don't have to feel like they're not going to get their paycheck and their full paycheck, that they don't have to feel like they have to sacrifice in terms of food or rent or whatever other expenses they have. There's kids going back to school and very shortly. And so very important that we make sure that we keep them home. So it's in the era of COVID, mandatory 10-day sick leave paid by our government, provincial and or federal, is critical to keeping our population safe and our economy going.
So now going to another subject, housing in Canada. When it comes to renting and buying a house in our country, the market is very, very difficult. There are very high prices in the market. So the Liberal Party is promising to invest $1 billion in the housing sector in the next 4 years. So how is that going to change in the housing situation with the low-income Canadians?
Yeah, I mean, there's many things we're doing. So many, like when we first were elected, we introduced something called the National Housing Strategy. So that's to help create what I call affordable housing and those who are precariously housed. So people who are homeless or have mental health issues. We have spent billions of dollars, Teresa. We're doing a good job. We have built a lot of homes it's for people who live on the streets or who have mental health issues. We're on track in terms of helping to support them. Also, we've been supporting all of our co-ops in terms of renewing their agreements. We subsidize all of that housing, and we're doing a good job of it. Okay, where we have not done a good job is what I call housing affordability. It is for the Portuguese community. They're earning good money. They're lawyers and accountants and business people, and they're doing a lot of important work here. And their kids are the next generation. And their kids are looking, saying, I can't afford a house. I have a good paying job. My husband has a good paying job. We have kids, but I cannot get out of my apartment because the housing market is too expensive. This is where our government feels we have to do a lot more work. So what we have committed is we are committing to building 1.4 billion more homes. So it's repairing and building homes because we have a lot of housing stock that exists right now, but they're in bad shape. So if we just fix them, they could become good homes for many families and it could become affordable homes. And then what we want to do is we want to sort of build. So we want to build, we want to incentivize rental apartments so that if you're renting your place, you could then, after a certain period of time, start paying the rent, but using that money to eventually own the place, okay? So we're putting in different measures that will make it, first, build the number of housing that's available, build the number that apartments and condos that are available so that you could actually own them. And then what we're trying to do is give you different tools to save more money. So for example, we're introducing a tax-free housing, housing account, okay? So you could save, every individual Canadian can save $40,000 tax-free to put towards the down payment of a house. And if you're married, that goes to $80,000 because there's two people there, right? So that is amazing. The other thing we're doing is we're working to reduce your mortgage insurance costs and some of the other costs that it takes to buy your first house, okay? We're doing everything we can. There's one more thing we have to do. It's not something we've announced, but we have to work with our cities and our provinces to change some of the zoning rules, okay? Because what happens is it's the responsibility of other levels of government to change some of the rules that will allow us to more quickly build some of these homes for families to affordably be able to purchase a home or purchase a condo and or apartment, depending on what they would like. So we're doing a lot. It's a big emphasis. I know it's very important for the Portuguese community. They're like my parents. My mother made me buy a house in my early 30s because she's an immigrant. She felt that would really help support me in my life. And she was right. I'd say though to the community, I had this 26-year-old Portuguese youth come up and he was very angry with me. He's like, I'm 26 and I want to buy a house and I can't afford it. And I said to him, well, you're 26, earn some more money, save it a little bit It's okay. I was in my early 30s before I could actually afford a house. It's not, these things are not meant for 20-year-olds to be buying houses. It's for, people who are legitimately earning excellent income, have and would like to purchase a house affordably and be able in their lifetime to pay off those houses. It's what our parents had, it's what our grandparents had, and we're determined as the Liberal, if we are re-elected, to implement that for all Canadians.
Well, and another thing the Liberals are proposing is to raise the corporate income tax rate on big banks and insurance companies by 3% on earnings above $1 billion. So how does that affect Canadians in general?
Yeah, I mean, so essentially all of the measures in our housing that I've just mentioned, how we hope to pay for it is through taxing banks and our insurance companies a little bit more. So look, the community, and I would say in general, Canadians really care about our federal government being responsible spenders. If we are going to spend more on healthcare, if we're going to spend more on childcare, if we're going to spend more on seniors, we also have to have a prosperous economy, and we have to have jobs. And the Canadian population, the Portuguese community, they want to know that we're thinking about ensuring that we have a good economy, Canadians continue to have jobs, and that we can continue to pay down our deficit and our debt levels, and we're responsibly spending money. So part of that responsible spending is making sure that we have fair taxation. So we thought, how are we going to pay for some of these additional costs? Well, we're going to tax those that are most wealthiest, and most wealthiest corporations in Canada are insurance and our banking sector. I'll also say to you that we've been spending a lot of money to go after what we call tax evaders. If you have a lot of money, you tend to put your money in these, private banking accounts in like Caribbean islands or different parts of the world. Well, in our first term, so in the first sort of 5 years that we were sort of in governance, we spent $1 billion going after those that were evading taxes. And we have recouped $5 billion, okay? So we spent $1 billion, but we got $5 billion back, ensuring people paying their fair share of taxes. So it's been very good investment for us. So a lot of what you've just mentioned in terms of additional going after wealthy individuals, that's what it is. It's for people, not for people who are earning money here and they're paying their taxes. Like if you earn $500,000 in Canada, you're paying your taxes. You're paying 50% on the dollar, okay? If you're earning $500,000 or $1 million a year, okay, that's how much your income taxes are. You're paying over 50%. But for those wealthy Canadians they have 20 million a year, they're billionaires, and they put away their income in these private offshore accounts. We are going after them and say, you are Canadian, you have to pay your fair share of taxes because you benefit from Canadian society, and you have to contribute equally back to Canadian society. So that's what we're doing.
So is there anything else, especially in our Portuguese Canadian community, that is going to be said in the case of a re-election Liberal Party? Is there anything that we should know?
For sure. So look, the community knows that because they've been talking to me for 5 years, that I am determined that we will find a way to have an amnesty for non-status workers who have been in Canada over 3 years. They've been contributing to our economy. They're not criminals. They have jobs. They're socially and economically integrated. I believe that they came here. They've been taking on jobs that couldn't be filled in Canada by Canadians. And I'm thankful to them for helping to support us. So I'm working on it. And I want them to know that I really, truly believe in this next term, if I'm reelected, I'll be able to get it over the finish line. But what I want them to know is we do have a construction pilot that has been updated, okay? So before, this construction pilot is for any non-status worker and their families, so kids, spouses, and their families who work in the construction sector. They can apply to this construction pilot run by the Canadian Labour Congress, and they can, if they meet the basic criteria, which I'll go through in a minute, they can be on a path to permanent residency, okay? The criteria has changed, Teresa, and I want the community to know that. I have fought very hard for the criteria to change, and we got it. I told them, you have to drop the language requirements. If someone is living in Canada for 5 years and working, and they're raising their family here, their language skills are good enough for right now, for their lives. They're integrated here. And so I am fine with them not passing a language requirement. So they dropped the language requirements. 2, filing Canadian income taxes. So you do not need to have filed Canadian income taxes. That has been dropped as well. And the other criteria that's very big that's been dropped is, before it was, if you had to come with a valid work permit to be eligible for this for this construction pilot, construction pilot. We dropped that. Even if you came as a visitor or a student, you can apply. You and your family can apply for this construction pilot. So I want them all to know I fought very hard. It is a big success for our community. I want people to apply. And all of those rules went into effect July 31st. So just within the last month has that gone in. So maybe the community doesn't know about it, and I want them to know about it. The last thing I would say, Teresa, is I want to talk about voting. The Portuguese community, they know I adore them. They know that I work very hard for them, and they know that I represent their interests in Ottawa, and also in our city. But here's what I want them to know. It is not, they need to come and vote. If they live in my riding, they have to come out and vote and get their families to come out and vote. It is a very close race in my riding. So if they're looking to have really good representation, I ask them to come out and vote. If they live outside of my riding, vote for the person that you really believe is going to help support the community and reflects your values. And for the party that is going to implement the programs that is going to make your lives better in this country. So for me here in Davenport, election day is September 20th, but there's advanced polls September 10, 11, 12, and 13. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It is 4 days. The polls are open 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. I encourage as many Portuguese to try to vote in the advanced polls. They won't be rushed. There'll be no lineups. They'll feel safer, although it'll be very safe on election day, but it'll just give them a lot more flexibility to go, and they won't feel rushed. But I really encourage them and their family to vote. Please vote. Really important that they do. It is not a slam dunk for anybody. Even though the whole community loves me, and I know it, you have to go out and vote. If you don't vote, then you're not going to get the representation that the community deserves, and that you guys have all benefited from as well. So I hope that I'm honored again to speak to you as the Member of Parliament after September 20th, but I do need everybody to vote, and I encourage them to vote in advance polls. And one last thing that's very important, Teresa, the polling locations will probably be different if it's at a school. So if the community is used to voting at a local school, because of COVID, the schools will probably not offer a polling station. They have to go look on their Elections Canada card, which will come next week, okay? They have to look at the card, they have to see where they vote, and they have to plan for it. They might have to take a bus to it. They might have to get their kids to drive them to it. But it is, they have to look at the location, or it just might be a couple of blocks further. It might just be down the street as well, but it's probably going to be a different location. Make sure that they look at the card, and I really encourage people to vote.
All right, MP Julie Dzerowicz, I won't take much more of your time. Thank you so much for being here with us. And it was a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to have you back on our channel. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigada. Thanks so much for this interview.